right, Attorney Hitchcock Cross, you can go ahead with your cross-examination.
Okay. Two requests. Number one, Ms. Headley, will you kindly email me the respondents' exhibits? I can't find it on my phone. I'd appreciate that. If we could have 5 minutes as well. Judge.
We can take 5 minutes, sure.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
We are back on the record after taking a short break. Attorney Hitchcock Cross, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. And Ms. Hoskins, I apologize. I think I got Hodgkins in my mind the first time I read your name. So if I slip up there, you will hopefully accept my apologies. Okay, but I will continue along those lines. So you said a couple of things, and I want to be clear here who made this decision to hire not to hire Miss Tate. So who is Christina Roth?
She's a supervising dietitian. She was a supervising dietitian.
Supervisor? Okay.
Supervising dietitian.
Supervising dietitian. Okay. And your position is a specialist at this time?
Yes.
Okay. And at the time we're talking about when you got this letter from Miss Roth, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And as you testified before, you didn't have the authority to overrule Miss Roth, only your manager did? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And who would have been your manager at that time?
Pepper Lamoth.
Okay. And this is in human talent. I'm sorry, what is the name of your
Talent management.
talent management? Okay. But that's in HR, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So is Therese Freiberg your ultimate supervisor in HR?
No.
Who is your ultimate supervisor in HR?
The head of HR is Adria Maddalini.
Okay. Is Therese Freiberg a supervisor of yours indirectly?
No.
Okay. So she works at HR in a different department. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. But you both work for HR, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Same with Mr. Gordon, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So isn't it fair to say that Miss Roth was the one who made the decision, the ultimate decision about hiring at that time?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you said before that in the past, employees have come to you directly about not being hired and have, for lack of a better word, appealed that determination to you. Is that correct?
Appealed the discrimination?
No, the lack of being hired.
Oh. Yes.
Okay. And about how often in your career in this position has that happened? You know?
Not often at all.
Okay. Is it fair to say more than 5 times, less than 5 times?
I would probably say less than 5.
Okay. So you testified earlier that in order to be eligible for you to go to the manager, somebody has to make a specific ask to you. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. How do you know that to be the case?
How do I know it to be the case if they give me a specific ask?
Right. Well, how do you, sorry, is that a policy or procedure at MPS?
Not necessarily a policy or procedure. It's usually, if someone reaches out to you and like they are like pleading the case of why they feel like they should be hired, I feel like someone should hear it. I'm not the person to hear that, so then I would refer them on.
Okay. So then starting with that, you're certain that you're not the person who can overrule the hiring decision of Miss Roth, correct?
Correct.
How do you know that?
Because I don't do that.
Sure, but
It's
have you ever
not my
been
job.
told that you, excuse me, I hate to interrupt you. Have you been told that you cannot do that?
I guess, I mean, not directly.
Okay. How about indirectly?
Yes. Indirectly, yes.
Okay. Who told you this indirectly?
It's just kind of just how it works here. You know, like I don't override what a department chooses. I'm not in a position that has that type of authority.
Okay. Have you ever tried to override a departmental decision?
No,
Why not?
because I don't have that authority.
Okay. So, is it fair to say that it's a personal policy of yours that when somebody goes to you with objections about not being hired, that you raise that to your manager's attention?
I wouldn't call it personal.
How would you describe it?
Um, I don't have a word for it. It's just it's practice.
Okay. Do you know anybody else at MPS who has that practice?
Like directly.
We can start with that. Sure.
No, I can't speak to that.
Okay. Is that because you don't know the answer to the question or something else?
It's because I can't speak to what someone else does. I can only speak to what I do.
I appreciate that. Okay. So you're saying, though, that you have this standing practice where somebody has to be formal enough to have you raise their objections to the manager, correct?
And it's not necessarily formal enough. It's if you're reaching out to me, you know, and like I said, it hasn't happened like a lot, you know, but you're reaching out to me and providing reasons in which you feel that you should have gotten the job, then I feel that someone should hear those reasons.
Okay. So it's fair to say that all they need to do to have that go to the next level is to bring to you reasons why they felt they should have got the job. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. So can we look more closely? Again, this is our Exhibit 4, Judge, and I believe it's page 6. Do you see that document? Can we share that document, please?
I'm just trying to pull it up. Just one second.
Can you see that? Can you zoom in there?
I can see it.
Just that
Yes.
page right there. Perfect.
Yes.
Who wrote the interview notes? Do you see that part? Ms. Hoskin?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to zoom in on my copy here. So if you need that zoomed in, you'll let us know, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
But
I can
what
see it.
I read is it says, you tell Ms. Tate that a decision was based on your interview results and a review of your file when you were a former employee. Is that right? Did I read that right?
I'm trying to find that.
He's
out here.
down
Yes,
here.
I see it.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we're just now, for this purpose here, we're going to skip over. There was some other interaction. But Ms. Tate says, who wrote the interview notes? Is that right?
That is right.
Okay. And then it says, based on the person who interviewed me, she said I did well, then told me the next step. So I'm interested to know what was written. Did she say that to you?
She did.
Okay. But you didn't take that to your manager, correct?
I did not.
Okay. Did you tell her what was written in the notes?
I did not.
Okay. But you did reply, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And sorry, to be clear, your response is, this is all the information I was provided in the interview notes. I was not given specific details, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that would indicate that you did not take that to your manager and that you weren't following up at all. That's true?
Correct.
Okay. So what, let's, assuming for the sake of argument here, that Miss Tate did feel that her not being hired was improper, what more should she have done to have you bring it to the attention of your manager?
She basically would have had to tell me what issue she had with, like not being hired.
Okay. So when she told you what's in my file, last checked, my file was in good standing, what did that mean to you?
What did it mean to me?
Correct.
It meant that she had no knowledge of anything in her file.
Okay. So was that a reason why she believed she should have been hired or something else?
Objection, speculation.
You can answer the question, Ms. Hoskin.
What was the question?
Can you restate the question, Attorney Hitchcock-Cross?
Sure. I'm a little, okay, so we'll just look back at this one. It says, so I'm interested to know what's written, and you say this is all the information that I provided in the interview notes. I was not given any specific details. I'm sorry. So she says, what's in my file? Last checked, my file was in good standing. Okay? What more could she have done to raise the issue of her file being in good standing as affecting her higher status than that?
I don't know what more she could have done.
Okay, I appreciate that. So now I'd like you to go to, this is respondents R4. This is the PeopleSoft screenshot, please. And we'll wait until that's pulled up. Perfect. I thank you very much. So I see at the bottom here several buttons. One is in blue that says save. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And then on the other side, it says include history and correct history. Do you see that?
Yes.
What happens if you push that include history button?
If you click the include history button, it gives you a history of, it gives you access to history of all the screens she ever had during her employment.
Okay. So you testified before generally that if somebody has an action of termination, then you go look further into their employment file. Is that right?
I said if it has termination and the reason discharge.
Okay. I appreciate that distinction. So if someone's discharged, then do you then go push the include history button or something else?
Then I would go, no, something else. I would actually have to go and look in their employment file.
Okay. How do you have access to their employment file?
I have access through like logging in to the system.
Okay. What system? What's it called?
It's called it changed. So
I understand.
it's called Alfresco.
Okay. So we heard testimony earlier today that there are at least two kinds of personnel files, a digital personnel file and a paper personnel file.
Correct.
Do you understand that to be true?
Yes.
Okay. And do you understand it to be true in Ms. Tate's case as well?
I don't understand. I don't know that she has one. Her department probably kept one, could have kept one. I don't know that there actually is one that exists.
Okay. So when you would have to access a, let's put it another way, what personnel file do you access with Alfresco system?
That's the like the HR personnel file.
Okay, but that's fair to say it would be the digital file or something else?
Correct.
Okay, and you call that the HR personnel file?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean that's what I access it for. So
Okay. So you testified earlier that Ms. Tate scored exceptionally high on the civil service exam, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And she was ranked in the second class, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you also testified that the results of the civil service exam have no bearing on whether or not somebody's hired. Is that true?
At that time, the results warranted you an interview.
Okay, so why then do they rank the employees at that time?
Because I mean, it's a scoring and ranking system to let you know, like, if you qualify, that's just practice.
Okay, well, why not just tell the people who qualified that they qualified? Why give them a number and a rank?
I didn't create the system, so I don't know.
Okay. Do you have any ideas why that could be
Objection. She said and testified she didn't know.
in your position?
You can answer, Ms. Hoskin.
I don't know.
Okay. But you spend a lot of time and energy ranking and scoring employees, correct?
Correct.
Okay, in fact, that's a large part of your job, correct?
Yes.
Okay, do you feel that there's a point to doing that?
It's my job.
Okay. So the ranking system, based on your understanding, is just something that you do because you've been told to do it, but it has no effect on the hiring process. Is that correct?
That's objected. That's mischaracterized as her testimony.
You can
She
answer the
testified.
question, Ms. Hoskin.
What was the question?
So you spent a significant amount of time scoring and ranking these tests, but yet you're also, and you've testified that it's a significant part of your job duties, but you're also testifying that it has no effect on the hiring process beyond whether or not somebody gets an interview. Is that correct?
Yes, it warrants them the interview. That's correct.
Okay. In fact, you testified that it's just something you do, correct?
It's part of my job.
Okay. Well, but you weren't able to tell us why you did it. You just were able to tell us that you do it because you were instructed to do it, correct?
Because it's part of my job.
Okay.
Right.
Now, do you know Miss Renee Slotin-Beauchamp?
Yes.
How do you know her?
She is the manager for nutrition services, manager
Okay.
operations.
What is her job role in relation to Miss Christina Roth?
She would have been her supervisor, her manager.
Okay, so Miss Slotin, the person who's doing the interviewing, is the manager of the person who sent you the notes. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you've referenced the department makes the decision several times. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay. Who do you mean by the department? Who is the head of that department?
The head of that department is, well, right now, Omar Abdullah. At the time, Christina Rothi was the person that handled the hiring.
Okay, so is it fair to say then, when you testified that the department made the decision, you were talking about Christina Rothi at that time?
Yeah, I was talking, she's the one who sent me the document, yes.
Okay, but even though she's not the head of the department, you understood that she was making the decision based on your experience?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to direct your attention to what you described as interview notes, and then I think you described it as something else, but this is the last section of R11. Please judge the last 2 pages of R11. Okay, did you see that document?
Yes,
Okay. How did this document come to be in your possession?
it was emailed to me.
Was it that document emailed to you with, sorry, were there any other, I want to be clear about that. Was this document emailed to you on its own or with other documents?
On its own.
Okay, who emailed it to you on its own?
Christina Rothy.
Okay. Now, I just want to make sure, because I've got several names here. Quite a few names, actually. And I've got them in several spots, so forgive me for a second. Pass list. Here we go. So, how about Laura Robinson? Did she send you interview notes for Laura Robinson?
I don't recall her name.
Okay. How about Cheryl Christine Campbell? Did she send you interview notes for Cheryl Christine Campbell?
I don't recall the name.
How about Dolores Medved? Did she send you any for Dolores Medved?
I don't recall the name.
Okay. How about Kiosha Nelson?
No, I can't remember the names of the individuals.
Okay. Well, then we'll go more broadly.
Okay.
This is on the interview notes, the pass list that you produced. And these are names that are on the pass list that you produced.
Okay.
You recall those names? Generally speaking.
Yes, if I produce the list, I mean, I don't know their names individually, but if they're on the list, then they
Fair enough. Okay. So I won't quiz you on your knowledge of the names of the people on this list from 2 years ago, but I will be clear that of this list of people that you generated, how many of them did you receive interview notes for?
I don't know the
I'm gonna-
exact number.
I'm going to object to the form. I'm sorry, Laquita, hang on. I'm going to object to the form. The document speaks for itself.
You can answer the question, Ms. Hoskin.
I don't know exact numbers of people on this list.
Was it more than one?
It was more than one.
Okay. Why was it more than one?
There was more than one person on the list.
Okay. But when you received this email, you only received it regarding Ms. Tate. Is that correct?
No, I
Objection,
received
that's
the
not-
entire document.
Okay.
Talking
Then
about
I'm sorry.
R11.
On the screen in front of you here, and this is, if you could go down to the yellow section again, please, Judge. There are 2 pages. Okay, and this says that there are notes on those 2 pages about in yellow, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and
Well-
those,
The notes aren't in yellow.
fair enough. Let's start. What does the yellow section on that page mean to you?
It means those who were interviewed in round 1.
Okay. And then do there exist, to your knowledge, any other interview notes with anybody else who was interviewed in round 1?
Yes, yes.
Have you seen those notes?
I'm looking at them.
You're looking at the one, all these notes here apply to Miss Tate, correct?
No. No.
Okay, on this
This is
screen
an
in front of
Excel
you-
document, so it really goes across and you have multiple pages. They don't all pertain to her. This page, it's each person on a line.
Great. So you see this document in front of you on the computer screen?
Yes.
And there's a yellow, 3 yellow columns in the middle, correct?
Mhm.
Okay, and the first words on there are job hopper, and the last words are wants wants FSA. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do all of those notes in the first column, do those pertain to Miss Tate or someone else?
They pertain to multiple people.
Okay. What, do any of these notes pertain to Miss Tate?
Yes.
Okay, which ones, if any?
Starting at the word made.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that response.
starting at the word made it very known, and then ending at worker who had issues. That's the only thing that pertains to Ms. Tate.
I'm sorry, and I just didn't hear the last thing. So that it ends with where?
Worker who had issues.
Okay, so to be very clear for the record here, the only part in this document that pertains to Ms. Tate is made it very known she is just bored in retirement and wants something to do, former facilities worker who had issues. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I appreciate that. And I just need to be clear because it's extremely prejudicial, and I want to make sure that it's not applying to my client. But included in that paragraph, it says vague answers, major job hopper, seemed high during interview. Did I read that right?
You're reading that correct.
Okay, and that does not apply to my client, correct?
That does not.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, what does the term former facilities worker who had issues mean to you?
It means that, that they somehow knew that she had issues at her former role there.
Okay, I appreciate that. Somehow.
Mhm.
Based on your experience at MPS, do you know how they had knowledge of her issues as a former facilities worker?
I don't know how they specifically had because I didn't ask.
Okay. But Ms. Tate asked you to ask them, correct?
She did.
Objection, the document speaks for itself.
And she answered the question, so move on to your next question.
Okay, and then, but you didn't follow up, correct?
An objection, that the document speaks for itself.
Okay. So it is also fair to say that this document here that's on the screen is where's your instructions for hiring or not hiring, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And it's also fair to say then that the decisions that were made, the decision maker who authored this document was aware that Ms. Tate was a former facility worker who had issues, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And is that what you meant when you said, because let's put it another way, you just testified that you discussed, this is all the information I was provided in the interview notes. You recall that?
Yes.
Okay. So when you said interview notes, you testified earlier, you were talking about this page in front of you here, correct?
Correct.
But it also says in these notes here, it also is very clear that she was not hired because of her status as a former employee who had issues, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So in fact, you were given specific details, correct?
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear you.
Sure. In fact, you were given specific details about the reason that she was not hired, correct?
That's not really specific.
I don't, okay. How could that have been more specific to you?
Like they didn't tell me why.
Okay. So it could have been more specific by saying, for example, former facilities worker who had issues and complained about discrimination. Would that have fit the bill?
I'm going to object as argumentative.
You can answer the question, Ms. Hoskin.
Say that one more time, please.
She
wants you to repeat the question.
I know. Sometimes it is better to have a court reporter. But in fact, you did get a specific details about why. No, I want to strike that. I asked you, you in fact were given specific details and you answered that it wasn't very specific to you. And then I said, could she have included a former facility manager who had issues because she complained about discrimination? Would that have been specific enough?
I mean, I suppose. I mean, I don't know that anybody would put that.
No, nobody would put that. And in fact, that didn't happen here, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But you knew enough from this message the why she wasn't hired, correct?
I knew, yes.
Okay. And in fact, that's also why you didn't bring this to the attention of your manager, correct?
Not
Objection.
sure what you mean.
Objections. It's not what she previously testified to.
You can
No,
answer
I'm
the
asking
question,
you.
Ms.
I'm not even
Hoskin.
sure what he means. I'm sorry.
Excuse me, Judge.
She wants you to rephrase. She doesn't understand your question.
Okay. We'll move on from that for the time being. Okay. I'm going to point you to our exhibit. This is the land bridge ones, the Goodwill Talent Bridge Food Service, number 12, please. Do you see that document, Ms. Hoskins?
Yes.
Okay. And based on your understanding of the food service assistant role at MPS, do you believe that the requirements of this food service assistant job at Talent Bridge are the same as the food service assistant job at MPS?
I'm going to object. The document speaks for itself.
And I can scroll down if you need me to take a look at this, Ms. Hoskin.
What's the question?
Is this the same job, this temporary job, is this the same job as the MPS job that you test and try to hire people for?
It's similar.
Okay, how is it different?
I don't know specifics. I mean, it seems like I don't know Talent Bridge's job requirements. I don't work for Talent Bridge.
Great. So
I would literally have to have both like next to each other to pick them apart specifically.
Well, you hire and administer tests for the food service assistant position, correct?
I do.
Okay. So based on that knowledge and the document in front of me, are you able to tell if these are similar positions or not?
I did say similar.
Okay, are they the same position?
I'm gonna leave it at similar.
Okay. Because one gets a different rate of pay, isn't that correct?
Objection argumentative.
If you know the answer, Ms. Hoskin, you can answer.
I don't even see the rate of pay. Wait a second.
I didn't hear the answer.
She said she didn't see the rate of pay, so I'm scrolling down to see if we can find it.
Okay.
I don't see it anywhere on this
Well,
document.
I'll ask another question then. Do you know what the rate of pay is for a food service assistant at MPS?
At what point in time?
Great. Let's start with in August of 2021.
$15 an hour.
$15 straight out?
Mm-hmm. I believe
Okay.
that was what it was.
What is it today?
$15.90.
1590?
Yes.
Okay. Did it change at all during that period of time?
It changed 7/1.
Okay, but
Of
the change was
2022.
from 15 to 1590?
Say that one more time.
The change is from 15 to 1590. Meaning there's no interim change in between there. There's just one change.
Yeah, we only change 7/1 of every year.
I understand. So, does MPS, is there any differentials in that pay that might entitle a food service assistant to a higher or lower wage than that initial $15?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So every food service employee at in 2019 was earning $15 an hour to start with. Is that correct?
Objection out of the time period.
Oh, fair enough, 20.
Again,
We're talking
objection.
August 2020. Because every initial food service assistant was earning $15 even. Is that correct?
And
You're
objection,
saying
that's not what she
when?
testified to.
When?
She said in 2021.
I'm sorry, it's Corona time. And I have it right in front of me here. So this is the time when we're talking about hiring Miss Tate or not hiring Miss Tate. And during that time, was every food service employee, I'll just strike that question. Had you hired Miss Tate, what would her rate of pay been?
The starting rate would have been $15.
Okay. And is there anything that Ms. Tate could have done between initially being hired and that raise to have increased her rate of pay?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. So to put it another way, on all entry-level food service assistants made $15, and then the next year they made $15.90, correct?
Not correct. That is the starting rate. They are on a step scale, so they would have gone up on their scale. 1590 became the bottom of the scale, so that because we got raises, plus the step. So
Okay. So
I don't know what a person that worked last year would have be earning exactly this year because it's not the minimum of 1590.
I understand. And the step scale, is that the only way to increase your rate? Meaning, is it only increased by rate of year, number of years?
Number of years and whatever the board approved raise is.
Right, okay. I appreciate that. So in other words, it's possible, given Ms. Tate's, or just given the fact that if Ms. Tate had been a food service assistant, it's possible to know what her wages would have been throughout the entire time period of 2021 to present. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Great. Now, just going back to the exam, there's an objective component, which is the exam, and a subjective component, which is the interview. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And it's your testimony that the subjective component is the only component that matters in terms of making the hiring decision. Is that right?
What is the subjective and what was the objective
The
again?
subjective is the interview,
Okay.
and the objective is an exam.
Okay.
Right? And you'll accept with me, I hope, that an exam is objective because there are results that come out of there that can be compared against other results.
Correct.
Okay. And I hope you'll also agree with me that an interview is subjective because it depends on the many factors, including who the interviewer is. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay. So based on that understanding, is it also fair to say that you've testified that the subjective component of the interview process, meaning, sorry, the interview, the subjective portion is the determining factor in hiring?
Yes.
In fact, it's the only determination or only factor in hiring. Is that correct?
Well, I still think that the testing matters because you wouldn't have gotten the interview without testing.
Okay. So, but again,
So I still think they both count.
okay. But it's fair to say, do you know whether or not the interview was aware of the testing score or not?
They are not.
Okay. Is it possible that the interviewer and the interviewee discussed their score?
It's possible.
Okay. But in fact, in an exam, the exam doesn't ask any questions about whether or not you've had any previous issues. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And the exam doesn't ask whether or not you filed any complaints, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But somehow after the interview, the person who did the interview was aware that Miss Tate was previously employed and had issues, correct?
Correct.
So the fact that MPS uses a subjective process as the primary qualification would allow it to not hire Miss Tate on the basis of her previous employment issues, correct?
I'm going to object here, and I'm going to object on a couple of bases. The first is that it's not the qualification, it's the final determiner, which is a differentiation with a huge distinction. So for that point, number one. And number two, you're inputting words into my client or into Ms. Hoskins' mouth.
Yeah, restate your question or rephrase your question, I should say.
Great. I'll ask a totally new question. Ms. Hoskins, how did you prepare for your testimony here today?
How did I prepare for it?
Correct.
Like, what do you mean? How did I prepare?
Did you look at any documents in preparation of your testimony here today?
Yes, I was given a copy of the exhibits.
Okay. Without telling me what you talked about, did you discuss your testimony here today with anybody?
Yes,
Who did you discuss that testimony with?
with Miss Headley.
Okay. Anybody else from MPS?
No,
Okay. Are you appearing here today under a subpoena?
no,
Why are you appearing here today?
because I was.
I'm sorry, Ilquay, I'm going to object. There's no relevance to this.
Just answer the question, Ms. Hoskin.
Because I was called to be here.
Who called you to be here?
I don't know exactly, but I got the information first through Mr. Gordon, and like an email that he had with Miss Headley, I believe.
Okay. So Mr. Gordon and Ms. Headley jointly contacted you about testifying here today. Is that
Not
correct?
jointly.
Again, objecting to relevance.
Get into
This
this,
has
but
nothing
we're taking too much time on things that are not relevant. We need to start moving on.
Okay. Did anybody instruct you to say anything that was untruthful here today?
No.
Are you appearing here today because of MPS's employment power or because you want to be here today?
Again, objection. Can we move on?
Let's
This is
let's
completely
move on.
irrelevant.
I know, let's move on. This is not necessary.
I understand. Thank you, Judge. Okay. I want to go back to your testimony earlier about how there's two kinds of employment files, the digital file and the physical file.
If you're asking a new question, yes. If you're just going to keep rehashing things she's already testified to, no, we're not going to keep doing this.
Okay, I appreciate that. Do you have access to the physical file?
No.
Okay. Do you know who does have access to the physical file?
They belong to the departments. So
Okay. And does each department keep its own physical file, if you know?
I don't know that each one keeps their own, but some do.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I want to be clear. This is buildings and maintenance, what keeps its own for sure?
I don't work with them, so I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. There was some time in which you stopped interviewing candidates and just started hiring them without the interview process, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Between the time that Ms. Tate was interviewed and how long is it until you started this process of hiring people without interviews?
It was to the beginning of this new school year,
Can you give me an idea in months?
August of this year. I believe it was like September of 21 that we stopped. Maybe even like late September, and then we started the interview process back. The first group of interviews was for August 15th.
Okay, so you stopped the next month, right? After you interviewed her and Ms. Tate in August, and then the next month you stopped interviewing people altogether, correct?
I'm going to object that as characterized the testimony. Ms. Hoskin did not interview Ms. Tate.
Okay, with keeping that in mind, Ms. Hoskins, the question that I'm asking here is the difference in time between when Ms. Tate was interviewed and the time when the MPS stopped interviewing people. That's less than a month, correct?
It's, I don't know that, I mean, I don't know that it was less than a month because her interview, it was based on like when people applied, not really when the interview took place.
Okay, why did MPS change its policy?
I stated that earlier.
Yeah, objection asked and answered. Can we?
Yes, this is all stuff we've gone over already.
Well, okay, so to be clear, at the time when Ms. Tate applied, there was 150 vacancies for the position, correct?
Roughly.
Okay. So there was job openings at that time, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So the only reason she wasn't hired wasn't because there wasn't a job opening. It was because on this interview notes, it says that she had a previous issue, correct?
Objection. That is not her testimony, and it is not the reason why.
Yes,
We've already
you,
went and asked and answered this.
yeah, you can't put words into her mouth, Attorney Hitchcock Cross. It just draws out this hearing longer because then she has to explain what's wrong. So please get focused so we can finish up today.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I think we've got our points here, and I'll take that criticism, Judge. Thank you very much. I will pass the witness.
Do you have anything else, Attorney Headley?
Unfortunately, Judge, yes, I do. Just briefly. Ms. Hoskin, thank you for your patience, and I do appreciate you being here as long as you have been. With response to a couple of different questions that Mr. Hitchcock Cross asked about, and I believe you've corrected me. Her name is Ms. Rothy, not Roth. Is that correct, Christina?
I may be saying it wrong too. That's how I
Fair
pronounce
enough.
it.
Fair enough. She's not here, so she's offended. I suppose that's not that big of a deal.
Mhm.
So, but Judge, I'm sorry. Can you stop sharing your screen, please?
Oh, sorry, I forgot that I was still
Thank you
sharing
so
it.
much. No, that's quite all right. We've all been there. Okay, so briefly here, Mr. Hitchcock Cross asked you if it was an accurate statement to say that Miss Rothy made the ultimate decision. Do you recall that line of questioning?
Yeah, kind of. Yes.
Okay. Do you know if Miss Rothy is the one who actually interviewed Miss Tate?
I don't believe that she did.
Okay. And what do you base that belief upon?
The spreadsheet should have the interviewer, the name listed.
Okay. And if the spreadsheet says that the individual who interviewed this person, Miss Tate, was Renee, do you know who that person is?
I do.
Okay. And that person is?
The manager of operations for nutrition services.
Okay. Now, did Miss Rothy's email state to you, and this is the August 24th, 2021 email to you from Miss Rothy, that it's everyone that she would like to hire is in green, or everyone that they would like to hire is in green?
I would assume it's we, but yes, we, everyone that we would like to.
Everyone that we would like to hire is in green. And so do you know for a fact if Miss Rothy is the ultimate person who was the decision maker in this case, or do you know something else?
I know that it was a collective. There were multiple interviewers.
Okay. So if Miss Renee Slaughton-Beauchamp interviewed one person, other people were interviewed by different people. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And then from there, is it your understanding that Christina Rothy went through and compiled the notes and then created that spreadsheet for you?
That's what my understanding is. Yes.
Okay. So it's not that Miss Rothy decided sua sponte or on her own that she was going to make a decision one way or another.
Correct.
Okay. And again, for purposes of clarity, do you know for a fact that if the individual who hired who interviewed Miss Tate rather looked at any employment file?
I don't know that.
Okay. And you base that upon your understanding of a compilation of the interview notes
Correct.
that was sent to you. the interview results document spreadsheet that was emailed to you on August 24, 21.
Correct.
All right. And that is the sole reason why you identified a look through your file in the email to Miss Tate.
Yes.
No one told you that they looked at the file.
No one told me that.
Okay. I'm finished, Judge. Thank you.
Anything else, Attorney Hitchcock-Cross?
No, Judge, thanks for asking.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hoskin, for your testimony. I just ask that you not talk to anybody about what you testified here today. We have one more witness to get through. And so just to make sure that everybody is testifying from what they recall.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I can leave.
Yes, you can disconnect or leave. Yes.
Thank you.
Judge, could we take 5 momentarily? I need to reach out to Miss Slaughton Beauchamp, and I also need to reach out to my husband regarding childcare.
Sure.
Thank you.